Nashtapreshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktim Bhavati Naistiki. So today
that was a good one.
We're studying Srimad Bhagawatam, Canto 3, status quo, Chapter 9, entitled Brahma's Prayers for Creative Energy, verse 12. And Nati prasidati Tato pachito pacharar Nati prasidati tato pachito pachar Aradita Suraganar Hirdi Barakamahar Adirhat Aradita Suraganar Hirdi Barakamahar Yat Sarvabhuta Dayayasad Alabhayayaiko Yat Sarvabhuta Dayasad Abhalayakayo Nana Janishva Avahita Surid Antaratma Nana Janesha Vantahar Surid Antaratma Nati Prasidati Tato Prachito Prachagar Aradhita Saraganar Vyudi Badakamahar Yat Sarvabhuta Dayaya Sarabhavyayakya Nana Janeshva Avahita Suridattaratma Nati Prasidati Taro Pachito Pachavar Aradhita Saraganar Vyudi Badakamahar Yat Sarvabhuta Dayaya Saralabhyayakho Nana Janeshva Avahita Suridattaratma Nati Prasidati Tato Prachito Pracharar Aradhita Saraganar Vyudi Badakamahar Yat Sarvabhuta Dayaya Sadalabhayako Nana Janeshva Amrita Suriratharatma.
Nana Janeshva Amrita Suriratharatma.
Nati prasidati tato pachito pacharaya.
Nati prasidati tato pachito pacharaya.
Aradita suraganaya vidivattakamaya.
Aradita suraganaya vidivattakamaya.
Yat sarvabhuta dvayaya saralapyayaiko.
Yat sarvabhuta dvayaya saralapyayaiko.
Nana janeshva apita surirantaratma.
Nana janeshva apita surirantaratma.
Nati prasidati tato pachito pacharaya.
Nati prasidati tato pachito pacharaya.
Aradita suraganaya vidivattakamaya.
Aradita suraganaya vidivattakamaya.
Yat sarvabhuta dayaya saralaya yaiko.
Yat sarvabhuta dayaya saralapyayaiko.
Nana janesva avahita surirantaratma.
Nana janeshva avahita
Surirantaratma.
Nati prasidati tato pachito pacharaya.
Nati prasidati tato pachito pacharaya.
Aradita suraganaya vidivattakamaya.
Aradita suraganaya vidivattakamaya.
Yat sarvabhuta dayaya saralapyayaiko.
Yat sarvabhuta dayaya saralapyayaiko.
Nana janesva vahita surirantaratma.
Nana janeshva avahita surirantaratma.
Nati prasidati tato pachito pacharaya.
Nati prasidati tato pachito pacharaya.
Aradita suraganaya vidivattakamaya.
Aradita suraganaya vidivattakamaya. Yat sarvabhuta dayaya saralapyayaiko. Nana janeshva avahita surirantaratma. Na, never.
Never.
Ati,
Ati.
very much.
Very much.
Prasidati,
Prasidati.
becoming satisfied.
Become satisfied.
Tata,
Tata.
as much as. Upashita,
Upachita.
by pompous arrangement.
By pompous arrangement.
Upacharai,
Upacharai.
with much worshipable paraphernalia.
With much worshipable paraphernalia.
Araditai,
Aradita.
being worshipped.
Being worshipped.
Suraganai,
Suradinai.
by the celestial demigods.
By the celestial gods.
Irdi Banda Kamahai,
Vidivadakamai.
with hearts full of all sorts of material desires.
Hearts full of all sorts of material desires.
Yat,
Yat.
that which.
That which.
Sarva,
Sarva.
all.
All.
Bhuta,
Bhuta.
living entities.
Living entities.
Dayaya,
Dayaya.
to show them causeless mercy.
Show the causes mercy.
Asat,
Asat.
non-devotees.
Non-devotees.
Allah, Hayaya,
Alaya.
not being achieved. Eka, one without a second. Nana, various. Janeshu, within. Atma,
Atma,
Supersoul.
Supersoul.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. My Lord, you are not very much satisfied by the worship of the demigods, who arrange for your worship very pompously, with various paraphernalia, but who are full of material hankerings. You are situated in everyone's heart as Supersoul, just to show your causeless mercy. Show your causeless mercy, and you are an eternal well-wisher, but you are unavailable for the non-devotee. The demigods and the celestial heavenly planets, who are appointed administrators of the material affairs, are also devotees of the Lord, but at the same time, they have desires for material opulence and sense gratification. The Lord is so kind that He awards them all sorts of material happiness, more than they can desire. But He is not satisfied with them because they are not pure devotees. The Lord does not want any one of His innumerable sons, the living entities, to remain in the material world of threefold miseries, to perpetually suffer the material pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease. The demigods and the heavenly planets and many devotees on this planet also want to remain in the material world as devotees of the Lord and take advantage of material happiness. They do so at the risk of falling down to the lower status of existence, and this makes the Lord dissatisfied with them. Pure devotees are not desirous of any material enjoyment, nor are they averse to it. They completely dovetail the desires with the desire of the Lord and perform nothing on their own personal account. Arjuna is a good example. On his own sentiment, due to family affection, Arjuna did not want to fight, but finally, after hearing Srimad Bhagawatam, he agreed to fight in the interest of the Lord. Therefore, the Lord is very much satisfied with pure devotees because they do not act for sense gratification, but only in terms of the Lord's desire. As Paramatma or Supersoul, He is situated in everyone's heart, always giving everyone the chance of good counsel. Thus, everyone should take the opportunity and render transcendental loving service to Him, wholly and solely. The non-devotees, however, are neither like the demigods nor like the pure devotees, but are averse to the transcendental relationship with the Lord. They have revolted against the Lord and must perpetually undergo the reactions of their own activities. Bhagavad Gita 4:11 states, Ye yatamam papadyante tam staiva vrajamyaham. Although the Lord is equally kind to every living being, the living beings for their own part are able to please the Lord. The living beings for their own part are able to please the Lord to either a greater or lesser extent. The demigods are called sakama devotees, or devotees with material desires in mind, while the pure devotees are called nishkarma devotees because they have no desires for their personal interest. The sakarma devotees are self-interested because they do not think of others, and therefore they are not able to satisfy the Lord perfectly. Whereas the pure devotee takes the missionary responsibility of turning non-devotees into devotees, and they are therefore able to satisfy the Lord more than the demigods. The Lord is unmindful of non-devotees, although He is sitting within everyone's heart as well-wisher and Supersoul. However, He also gives them the chance to receive His mercy through His pure devotees who are engaged in missionary activities. Sometimes the Lord Himself descends for missionary activities, as He did in the form of Lord Chaitanya. But mostly He sends His bona fide representatives, and thus He shows His causeless mercy towards the devotees. The Lord is so satisfied with His pure devotees that He wants to give them the credit for missionary success. Although He could do the work personally, This is a sign of his satisfaction with his pure Nishkarma devotees compared to the Sakarma devotees. By such transcendental activities, the Lord simultaneously becomes free from the charge of partiality and exhibits his pleasure with his devotees. Now a question arises. If the Lord is sitting in the heart of non-devotees, why are they not moved to become devotees? It may be answered that the stubborn non-devotees are like the barren land or alkaline field, where no agricultural activities can be successful. As part and parcel of the Lord, every individual living entity has a minute quantity of independence. And by misuse of this minute independence, the non-devotee commits offense, after offense, to both the Lord and his pure devotees engaged in missionary work. As a result of such acts, they become as barren as the alkaline field, where there is no strength to produce. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Hina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadammayam Tadanti Svapadanti Kam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Balakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Upam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvarutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishika Vidamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpati Gopisa Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vindavanishri Vishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakapatarubhyascha Kripasindu Vayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I forgot to have you repeat, so I'm going to repeat now. Oh, my Lord.
Oh, my Lord.
You are not very much satisfied by the worship of the demigods,
You are not very much satisfied by the worship of the demigods,
who arrange for your worship very pompously,
who arrange for your worship very pompously,
with various paraphernalia,
with various paraphernalia,
but who are full of material hankerings. You are situated in everyone's heart as the super soul,
You are situated in everyone's heart as the super soul,
just to show your causeless mercy.
just to show your causeless mercy.
And you are the eternal well-wisher,
And you are the eternal well-wisher,
but you are unavailable for the non-devotee.
but you are unavailable for the non-devotees.
So in these prayers from Lord Brahma, he's mentioning the demigods, he's mentioning the pure devotees, he's mentioning non-devotees, and how the Lord relates to each category. So we'll discuss this a little bit this morning. And throughout the Srimad Bhagawatam, we learn a lot about the demigods. And the demigods are very, very powerful living entities, much more powerful than we are. And their lifespans are very, very long. There's about 33 million of them up there controlling the universe and taking care of business. And they have this great intelligence to do everything. They have amazingly beautiful bodies. We'll even read later on in the Bhagavatam how they become, humans become obsessed with their bodies. And they have a great ability to enjoy, much greater than we have. Not only are their bodies more suitable for enjoyment, but they have access to much more enjoyable things than we have. I was thinking it's kind of like the difference between a dog and a human. Dogs, you can feed dog the same thing every night, and happy to eat it. In fact, if you change the food, they may stop eating. And they're happy, just a very simple life. Whereas humans, we need variegatedness. We need a lot of different things. And there's a difference like that between humans and demigods, where they have so much more ability to enjoy. But they are devotees, and they worship the Supreme Lord. They do it with great pomp and circumstance, as it's said. And in the Srimad Bhagawatam, it talks about how when Narada went to Lord Brahma's planet, that the whole planet is full of Brahmins who are creating these amazingly wonderful sacrifices just for Vishnu. Mahapurush lives on this planet. Vishnu lives on this planet. One of his forms as Mahapurush lives on this planet, and he comes out to accept these sacrifices and then goes back to his quarters and sleeps. And the whole planet is just constantly performing these great sacrifices. However, they're all done with some motivation, personal motivation by the demigods for some gain, for some personal gain. They want to increase their wealth. They want to increase their longevity. They definitely want to return again as a demigod in their next life. They want to enjoy this material world. They want to be devotees and enjoy the material world. But there's nothing in this material world, Krishna states that in the Bhagavad Gita, that he's interested in. There's no happiness for him in this material world. There's nothing that interests him. So if one is wanting to stay in this material world and enjoy, that means there's a certain amount we want to keep separate from Krishna. It's kind of like, eating out. We're so blessed to have prasadam, because prasadam is Krishna. And we can have this really intimate relationship with Krishna. But sometimes with family and things, they want to take you out to eat. I had to set the rules with my family. I wouldn't go to any place unless it was vegan, because the others are too, creepy. But of course, I love going to Mayapur. They have that restaurant row. Remember that bakery in Mayapur? Oh my God, don't beat the death of me. Anyway, it's amazing what devotees can do. But the demigods, they have little desire, if any, to leave this material world. But Prabhupada explains the material existence in the material world is like walking on a razor's edge. At any moment, we could fall off. It's that thin of a line. And you've seen those people, it's a new thing now on the beach. They set up a rope and people try to walk across this rope. Very few people can do this. It's so difficult. And it's like our life in this material world. Unless we really absorb ourselves in this process that Prabhupada has set up for us of bhakti yoga, it's very dangerous to try and exist here. We have to take Maya very seriously. It's like if you deal with a big animal, you have to remember this animal is huge and it has power and it could hurt you very easily. I remember one time when I was really young, we had horses and my dad got kicked. His whole leg was black and blue. And he taught me at that time, never walk directly around a horse. Never to that day have I ever walked directly around a horse. They could spook and then kick. But even around cows, cows are gentle, loving animals. But if they just toss their head to scare a fly away, they could break your bones very easily. So Maya is very dangerous. And we take Maya and multiply that by our material desires, and we're in a very dangerous position, because she knows how to get us. She knows what will get to us. And so she will present that to us over and over again. And Srila Bhaktivedanta, Srila Bhaktivinoda, of course, says, rather than blame others for our difficulties and our challenges, that we should first look at ourselves and become aware of where we're at. and what our desires are. And this is called introspection. And so pure devotees, they become very introspective, and they understand that, like Srila Bhaktivinoda says, rather than blame others, we look inside and we say, what is it about me that's causing this situation? It's about our problems that cause these situations. And it's about our need to surrender. But the pure devotees, who is a pure devotee? That's my first question. Who is a pure devotee? Well, once in an interview, a newspaper person was interviewing Srila Prabhupada, and they asked Srila Prabhupada, how many pure devotees do you have in your movement? And Prabhupada turned to the devotee next to him and he said, how many devotees do we have in the movement now? And he said, 8,000, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, we have 8,000 pure devotees. Prabhupada was so merciful because he said anyone who is following this process is a pure devotee because they're protected from the material energy. And they're giving up their desires for material enjoyment and from living separately from the Lord. They know that there's no happiness, real happiness. There's some, it's explained in the 7th verse in this chapter. There's some little happiness, but it's very temporary. And so devotees really don't find happiness outside of devotional activities. So they engage themselves wholeheartedly in devotional activities, 24/7. And that way, they continually taste the nectar of devotional service. And you know, it's so enthusing as an older devotee to see so many younger devotees take to Krishna consciousness. It's very enlightening. And to see their enthusiasm and desire to take up devotional life. I mean, just here, who's planning on going to a movie this afternoon? Yeah. Who's planning on going to a bar tonight and having a drink? Yeah. But if you ask any of your old friends, that's probably on their agenda. But a devotee knows there's no happiness in these things. There's no satisfaction. That devotee takes their abilities. It talks about dovetailing in this verse. They take their abilities. Everyone has different abilities here. We all have a wide assortment of abilities. You know, some people can fix anything. And some people can grow anything. Some people can chant and preach, and there's so many different abilities here, and we all have a wide assortment of abilities. And we take those abilities and we give them to Krishna. We serve Krishna in that way, and our hearts become very satisfied, and we become very happy. And that in this verse, that also Prabhupada gave the example of Arjuna. Now, Arjuna was this powerful, powerful warrior who had all kinds of abilities. And he's on the battlefield. And he's looking out at all the people who's come to fight with him to the death, to kill him, to kill his brothers, and kill his side. And he's seeing his grandfather. He's seeing his cousin brothers. He's seeing uncles. He's seeing friends are now opposing him, ready to kill him. And he becomes overwhelmed with grief due to the bodily conception. And he's lamenting. And he's wanting to give up his bow. He's wanting to go to the forest and become a yogi. And so he's crying to Krishna, what do I do? And he accepts Krishna as his spiritual master. And as Krishna begins to explain in the Bhagavad Gita the different processes for realization, and he explains to him about the process of Ashtanga yoga. And Arjuna rejects this. He says, I can't do that. Sit in yogic position for 1,000 years, meditating on my nose. I don't think so. And so at the end, when Krishna explains everything about this process of devotional service, and Arjuna accepts it, Arjuna then says to Krishna, he says, "Oh, my dear Krishna, oh infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt, and am prepared to act according to your instructions." So this is Arjuna's mentality then. And this is where we want to come to. We want to come to the point where we are ready to accept Krishna's instructions on all levels, in all departments, in any segment of our lives. And it was interesting because after the Battle of Kurukshetra, after it was proclaimed that the Pandavas had won the battle, and the Kurus were slaughtered, they were annihilated. Duryodhana was lying on a hill with his hips broken. Everything was finished for the Kurus. But then Ashvatthama, who was the son of Dronacharya, Dronacharya was the teacher for the Kurus and the Pandavas when they were young. He taught them the art of military warfare. He taught them the mantras. He was a very dear teacher to them. And he was also killed, but his son Ashvatthama, a Brahmana, snuck into the camp of the Pandavas in the middle of the night. He snuck into the tent of Draupadi's 5 young sons, and he slaughtered each one of them by beheading the child. 5 children he beheaded. Of course, Draupadi was overwhelmed with grief, and she wanted Ashvatthama's head. And Arjuna agreed to get it for her. And he went off with Krishna to chase down this just disgusting personality, Ashvatthama, who had fallen from a Brahma down to the lowest level of human life. And as they cornered Ashvatthama, he had acquired the ability to set off this huge Brahmastra that will annihilate the world. And it's called a Brahmastra, Prabhupada explains, because it has the same ability of a nuclear bomb. It has the same radiation ability. It will burn like radiation. But one of the laws of warfare is you should never set off a weapon unless you have the mantra and power to bring it back. Ashvatthama did not have that ability. And so when Krishna and Arjuna closed in on Ashvatthama, he set off this Brahmastra. And Arjuna and Krishna could see it. The whole sky was red. And people all over the world were feeling the burning effects of this weapon. And so Arjuna, who had the ability to immediately rescind and end this weapon, first thing he did was turn to Krishna. Krishna, what do you want? And he was ready to accept. You want us all to be annihilated in this Brahmastra, or do you want me to end it? And so it's interesting that he did not hesitate to make his first response to Krishna. And so Krishna motioned for him to continue and to end the Brahmastra. So they did. They ended the Brahmastra. They captured Ashvatthama. And that story can be continued later. But we can take these lessons from Srimad Bhagawatam in our own lives and not be afraid to take the next step in Krishna consciousness, to take a little bit more to the next step, to be a little bit more austere, to give up a little bit more of our sense gratification. So we don't become like the demigods and just want to stay in this material world enjoying, because it's such a thin line. We could fall off and have to come back and not be able to take up this process and just become another materialist who's lost. And gradually our hearts will become alkaline and nothing will grow in them. So we need to take this seriously and keep growing in it in our Krishna consciousness. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. It's a gradual process. but take that next step of austerity, of sincerity, of giving something a little bit more to Krishna. So I'll end here. And John.
I have a question.
Yes, Prabhu.
You said demigods, they are devotees.
Please speak louder.
Demigods, they are devotees, as
Yes.
you said. What makes someone devotee become a demigod or not being engaged in pure devotional services?
Well, the demigods are born from Aditi. She is a demigod, and she's actually a Prajapati who is empowered to give birth to the demigods. So the previous lifetime, they were very pious, possibly they were devotees. So they have this karma that has accrued to be demigods. You could easily become a demigod in your next life, but it's a dangerous path being a demigod because of all the enjoyment they have. So that's another good reason to take this seriously. Yeah, you may get a demigod body in your next life, but it's much harder to take Krishna consciousness.
But is that a choice?
Is it a choice? Yeah, it is a choice. It's a choice by how we live.
Okay.
Yeah, we make choices every moment of the day. And it comes down to what choices are we making at this moment. And when we become introspective, we become aware of what our choices are. Am I doing this for my sense gratification? Or am I doing this to please the Lord? And so we have to be aware of what choice we're making and why we're making it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And when I was in Los Angeles, I met this one person who was kind of like friends with the devotees, and he would really read the books.
Yeah.
He didn't necessarily practice so much, but he was really into reading the books. And he used to always say that I'm actually not trying to go back to Godhead. I'm just trying to become a demigod because I can enjoy more in the next life. But even the problem with being a demigod is that you can fall from that position or come back to the planetary. Can you come down to house other lower planets?
Sure. Yeah.
There's no guarantee, even if you're in the higher planetary systems as a demigod, that you'll return there and
Yeah.
go back to lower planets.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no guarantees in this material world. It comes down to how we live our lives. Yantra Srimad Bhagawatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada.
Steve, good question.